about the Netaji issue. भाई आपको रिपब्लिक टीवी का बाइट कोई रिपोर्टर देने आए और अर्नब गोस्वामी खुद फोन करे तो फर्क होता है वो रिपब्लिक के, लेकिन वो लेवल का फर्क आएगा। रिपोर्टर को भगा दोगे लेकिन बॉस को नहीं भगा, तो बॉस ही बोलता है इतना सारे अर्नब को, बॉस को अपनी भगा सकते। तो यहाँ पे वेरी माइंडफुल। भाई एक बीजेपी का मुझे प्रांत प्रमुख मुझे फोन कर रहा है कोई कहाँ पे, वहां से खबर आया कि मंत्री जी फोन करेंगे, ऑब्वियसली मंत्री को हम भी खड़े हो जाएंगे सुनने के लिए। डिपेंड करता है कौन कर रहा है, आपका लेवल क्या है, यू शो योर सीरियसनेस। अगर आपको केस में सीरियस दिखाना है, आई एम सीरियस अबाउट इट, यू विल पुट अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पर्सन, सीनियर लेवल, हाईएस्ट लेवल, तो उसमें आता है हाईएस्ट गवर्नमेंट टू गवर्नमेंट लेवल पे भी। तो हमने उनको रिक्वेस्ट किया कि, तो मोदी जी ने हमारे सामने बोला कि मैं, दिस इज इन 2015, कि मैं पुतिन जी से मिल रहा हूं अभी, तो मैं उनसे बात रेज करूंगा। तो मोदी जी ने पुतिन जी से हमारे सामने कहा है, इट मस्ट बी समवेयर ऑन द रिकॉर्डेड बिकॉज इट वाज बीइंग टेलीकास्ट ऑन टेलीविजन, जब उनसे घर में मिलने गए थे, लेकिन हमें नहीं पता कुछ उसके बारे में, कोई हुआ, बात हुआ, नहीं हुआ, इट इज नॉट इन पब्लिक डोमेन। लेकिन उसके मोदी जी के बोलने के 10-12 दिन बाद सुषमा स्वराज जी ने बात करी, उसका बाइट है पर ये इसको ऑडियो के निकाल देते हैं। और उसके बाद में सुषमा स्वराज जी ने उनसे रशियन गवर्नमेंट से पूछा, और उसके बाद ये 2019 में जाकर के 4 साल बाद जाकर के जब किसी ने सवाल पूछा पार्लियामेंट में, तो सरकार ने बोला कि रशियन गवर्नमेंट ने बोला कि वी हैव नो इन्फॉर्मेशन। ये लैंग्वेज मीडिया की है, लेकिन उनका जो लैंग्वेज है कि वी हैव नो इन्फॉर्मेशन। तो ये वी हैव नो इन्फॉर्मेशन का मतलब मैं आपको समझा देता हूँ कि आपको मालूम है कि लाल बहादुर शास्त्री की डेथ हुई थी, प्रधानमंत्री की, ताशकंद में, और जब डेथ हुई थी तो उस टाइम पे वहां पे आधी भारत सरकार ताशकंद में बैठी थी, हमारा होम मिनिस्टर, होम सेक्रेटरी, फॉरेन मिनिस्टर, फॉरेन सेक्रेटरी, डिफेंस मिनिस्टर, डिफेंस सेक्रेटरी, पूरी आधी गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया हमारी वहाँ ताशकंद में बैठी थी उस टाइम पे, ठीक है जी। अब प्रधानमंत्री मर गया वहां पे, अब प्रधानमंत्री मर जाएगा तो लोग तो पागल हो जाएंगे। पहली जिंदगी में कभी सुना ऐसा हुआ नहीं, कोई प्रधानमंत्री मर जाए गवर्नमेंट में जाकर के फोन घुमाएंगे, टेलेक्स आएगा, जो भी था टेलीफोन तो वो था, मोर्स कोड होगा, मैसेज आएंगे ना, भैया प्रधानमंत्री बीमार हो गए, ये हो गया, वो हो गया, सो डॉक्यूमेंट्स होंगे, रिकॉर्ड होगा, प्रधानमंत्री मर रहा है यार, कोई ऐसा मजाक है। तो इनसे मैंने सवाल पूछा, मैंने कहा 2 रिपोर्ट मेरे को इसके बारे में, तो ये आंसर मेरे को सूचना के अधिकार में उन्होंने दिया है, आप खुद पढ़ लो। The case was referred to both concerned division in this ministry as well as concerned mission in Moscow. The concerned division has conveyed they don't have information on the subject matter. इसका मतलब क्या है? इसका मतलब हिंदी में ये जुमला है, इसको हिंदी में कहते हैं कि तुझे क्यों बताऊं, तू कौन है, तू कौन है पूछने वाला। We have no information to give to you. I will not give it to you. Even I follow this rule. जितना भी आप और मैं चंद्रचूड़ घोष जितना भी आउटस्पोकन हो रहे हैं, ऐसी कई बातें हम आपको नहीं बताएंगे, मतलब थोड़ा बता करके। तो चक्कर ये कि ये वी हैव नो इन्फॉर्मेशन, ये कौन बनेगा बता बेकार की बात कर रहे हैं। देखिए रशिया के बारे में ये एक मजाक में मीम बनाया था और ये अभी तक बिल्कुल फिट चलता है। तो ये मजाक में मीम बना के डाला है, मोदी जी पुतिन जी मोदी जी को बोल रहे हैं कि भैया तुमने अपने तो आईडी के रॉ के रिकॉर्ड पब्लिक किए नहीं समाज को, उसके हमसे क्यों मांगते हो केजीबी के रिकॉर्ड। चैरिटी बिगिंस एट होम। दुनिया में सत्य और शांति खिलाने का ठेका किसने लिया? हिंदुस्तान ने लिया। खाने पेट में रोटी हुन्ना हो आपके, दुनिया में शांति आप लेकर के आएंगे। मैं बोल के तंग आ गया लोगों को, भैया दुनिया में शांति खिलाने के लिए अमेरिका बहादुर बैठा हुआ है, तो मेरे दिल्ली में पानी ले आओ, कम से कम 4 घंटे पानी नहीं आता, 2 घंटे पानी आता सुबह मुश्किल से, ठीक है जी। तो दुनिया में शांति और सत्य खिलाने का जिन्होंने ठेका लिया हुआ है, भैया तुम तो अपनी फाइलें खोल के दिखाओ, तुम्हारे पास क्या है। ये अभी कोई फाइलें आईबी रॉ की पब्लिक नहीं करी है, 1 नंबर जो उस्ताद है उस पर हमारे पास पाएंगे। दुनिया में कोई आपको देश, अमेरिका, इंग्लैंड, यूरोप आपको सीक्रेट इंटेलिजेंस की फाइलें नहीं दिखाएगा जब तक आप अपना मान मत उनको नहीं दिखाओगे। हमने अपना पब्लिक करना नहीं है, हम तो इनके गुरु हैं, मैं आपको महसूस करूंगा उसके बाद में। तो ये प्रॉब्लम आ रही है कि आप तुमसे वो कौन सा गाना था बड़ा पुराना हिंदी में, तुमसे बुलाया ना गया हमसे आया ना गया, वो वाली कहानी है कि ये तो रशिया से हमारा अप्रोच नहीं हो पा रहा है। और
ये let's keep this part for now. Let's come to the end because time will become a problem.
Then you will not let many questions.
I'll just then let's not go through the sites. I will just briefly tell you the
story. No, I'll keep on there because without the visual it will not make sense.
So the thing is that how did all this start and हमने इस काम को हाथ में क्यों लिया और क्या कर रहे थे इतने साल? So I told you that we have been working for the last 2 decades and what have we been doing? शुरू में मैंने रेफर किया था that Anuj first book came out in 2004, Back from Dead, and around that time उसके थोड़ी देर बाद ही the Mukherjee Commission was wrapped up and his conclusions, his findings were rejected. Now, at that time, we were a lot of youngsters scattered across the world. Anuj was in Delhi, I was in UK, but we were all very sincerely following what was going on here. And Anuj was our man on ground, reporting exactly what was going on and what is expected and all. But जब reject हो गया मुखर्जी commission का report, it was a shock for us to some extent, although expected, but it was still a shock because the entire issue was dead. The government gave no reason for rejecting, but when after much persuasion, when the parliament debated the issue, the debate was closed prematurely. It was assurances were given that we will take it up later, it will happen again, but the government never took it up. It was the matter was killed. Netaji's disappearance mystery was finished forever, pushed under the carpet. It was gone. The newspapers wrote obituaries. They called it a damn squib, a futile exercise, and meaningless, pointless wastage of time. Historians in the Jawaharlal Nehru University called it publicly a sheer wastage of time, and it irks them, it irritates them. It's such a nonsensical issue. So the entire atmosphere was hostile and indifferent. They were not interested. The case was closed. For us, it was a very difficult time because we could not accept that such a big thing can be closed, killed rather, like that. So we started wondering what can we do as ordinary individuals scattered around the world. We don't have power, we don't have money, we don't have other resources. What can we do? People like us do. As it is a very fanciful saying, the fortune favors the brave. I don't want to say that. But something happened, something favorable happened, as luck would have it. The government of India passed a new law in 2005. There was a lot of demand for transparency in administration, so people wanted to know how much money is being spent on making roads, creating new drains and public services ration and everything. And they passed this new law called the Right to Information Act, which would bring in transparency in administration. Probably nobody thought that this was a piece of law which could be used to dig up buried history also. And that's what we decided to do. So I was in UK, I could not do anything, so I wrote to my friends here, Shantan, Anuj, and our youngest at that time, Vishal, who was sitting in Delhi. I said, I wrote, drafted the application and said, please go and file it to the Home Ministry. So it was a request for sharing documents which belonged to the Shanwas Committee, which was set up in 1956 by Pandit Nehru, and then the Commission of Inquiry set up by Indira Gandhi in 1970. So we asked for a set of documents which were called exhibits. Exhibits are documents when a commission of inquiry functions, thousands of documents are submitted by different people, hundreds of people. But the commission, the person in charge of the commission, they select certain documents which they feel are important enough, and they base their conclusion on those documents. And at the end of the report, usually what they do is they make a list of those documents. That these are the list of documents which I have referred to, on which I have depended for reaching my conclusion. So these are called exhibits. In technical terms, they are called exhibits. So we wanted the exhibits which were mentioned in the Shanwas Committee and the Khosla Commission. The government told us the first thing, that which Anuj was just showing, that there is no information. There is no information about this because these don't exist. So this was the first response. And they completely denied and took recourse to the excuse that if we give out information related to Netaji, there will be serious law and order problem within the country. Our relation with foreign countries will be spoiled, and so on and so forth. Lot of problems. Basically, the issue was Netaji is a problem issue. Don't even think of touching it, and don't ask anything from us. But that is where the battle began, and we took on the battle. We fought through step by step, proved that those documents existed, and it was only the second time that the Central Information Commission, the apex body of the transparency bureaucracy, they had the second full bench hearing. And initially the CIC was hostile to us, but they turned around when we proved that these documents existed and the Home Ministry was hiding information. Then the CIC turned around and started favoring us. And when the CIC was on the verge of giving a verdict, the Home Minister, the second most powerful bureaucrat in the country, he wrote a confidential letter to the Information Commissioner that we have more than 70,000 documents which are still kept secret. But if we release these documents, there will be widespread law and order problem in the country, especially in Bengal. Now, this is not an off-the-cuff remark. It is not a casual statement.
No, it's deliberate remark.
It is coming from the second most powerful bureaucrat in the country and written confidentially. So this ticked off the Information Commissioner. And we had asked for 202 documents. The full bench of the Information Commission sat and passed the order that you have to give them the 202 documents, and all other documents that you have must be sent to the National Archives. Gradually start the process now. So that was the thing. Now many people tend to think that we are talking about history. We are talking of the past. Oh, jo ho gaya, so ho gaya. This is of academic interest. Now let me tell you something. We are not talking about history. We are talking of something which is very much of present politics. And why am I even saying that? I will give you two examples. The first example was of this order. 202 documents. Central, we fought against, a lot of people talk a lot of things, say a lot of things today. It's much easier to talk about these things today. It was not in 2006, 2007. We were working against a hostile government. And so the order came, and what happens? Usually what happens is when the CIC gives an order, the government carries it out. But here what happened, after the order was passed, 5 people sat in a room on a table and discussed the issue between them, and decided that 202 documents cannot be given, only 91 will be given. 5 people decided that. Who are these 5 people? These 5 people belong to a committee. This committee is called the Cabinet Committee on Political Affairs. Who are all the people in this CCP, Cabinet Committee on Political Affairs? The Prime Minister, the Foreign Minister, the Defense Minister, the Home Minister, the Administrational Affairs Minister, or some. So 5 most powerful people in the country sat in 2007 and decided that even the 202 documents related to Subhas Chandra Bose could not be released. They could release only 91. And this is for those who think we are talking about history. The second example I will give you belongs to 2010. I asked for a copy of the manuscript of the history of the Indian National Army. The history was written sometime in the late 1950s, and it was commissioned by the Nehru government. And since then, it has remained in the manuscript stage, mostly confidential. But some years ago, the history section of the Defense Ministry opened it up. If you wanted, you can go and look at the document, refer to the document. I doubt how that works, because you can't copy anything, you can do anything, you can just read. How can you read even 1,000-page document just sitting like that? Nobody can. So it is just a pretext. So I said, give me a copy of the manuscript. So now they raised a valid objection. They said, if we give you the copy of the manuscript, you might just use it in your name. You publish, it's a manuscript, it's not yet published. So you might publish it in your name and make commercial gains. I said, that's a fair point, fair argument. So the Information Commission told me, so you do one thing, you submit an affidavit that you will not make commercial use of this manuscript. I said, I'm fine with that, because I want the copy only for reference purpose. I will not make commercial use, and I submitted an affidavit to that effect. A legally admissible, acceptable affidavit, signed by the notary. Now, the commission had no more problem. They asked the Defense Ministry to give me the copy of the manuscript. Now, next I know is the Defense Ministry goes to the Delhi High Court and files a case. So what happens normally in the legal route is that when you get an order from a lower court, you go to the higher court, file an appeal against that order. Here what happened is the Defense Ministry went to the Delhi High Court and filed the case against me for asking for the manuscript. Why did he even ask for the manuscript? So the case was filed against me, not against the order. So just think about it and imagine. I mean, we are not talking about history here. So this is how things have progressed, and when we went on, Anuj and I, we went ballistic. We kept filing for application after application after application, and that's how I had to fight for 4 years to get all the exhibits of the Justice Mukherjee Commission.
So out of this 200-91 were given to us directly, and out of the 70,000 odd pages they said ki Mr. Home was holding about Netaji's death, something like 10-15,000 pages approximately was released by Government of India. Subsequent to that CCPI meeting in 2010, it was released. So 2010, and then it's about like it takes about 2 years for the documents to arrive at the National Archives. Now National Archive then does it. They do it then proper. They have to put things in the places, create catalogs and all that. So they took about 4 years, 2 years. So then by the end of 2014, these 10-15,000 pages became available in the National Archive. So because we were pursuing this case, so I went to the National Archive. And it so happens now, this is where it becomes very interesting, what happens usually when you undertake a massive declassification of hundreds and thousands of pages. So a human being can make mistakes, to err is human. Even the Americans have made this mistake in past. The CIA by mistake released record in public domain, then they reclassified it. It was by mistake it was released. So I went to the National Archives and I went to see the records, and I came across they were by mistake. How much time do we have?
We have
around
half an hour or so.
So I came across these photocopies of the files of which showed that the Bengal intelligence branch at the behest of the IB of Delhi was keeping an eye on Subhas Bose's family members after independence. ठीक है जी? So I say this and I call Chandrchur Ghoose from the National Archive. I tell him, Chandrchur Ghoose, this is the Watergate scandal, Part-2. And this is something which is not, this is for those who are young, they do not know what is Watergate scandal. Watergate scandal is the most notorious scandal of history of political science, or rather politics. So this goes back, it's so notorious that at any point of time, anywhere in the world, India or abroad, if there's a scandal, they would suffix gate after it. And for example, coal gate scandal. So it's not coal gate, is coal mines scandal is called coal gate scandal. So because gate comes from Watergate. Now in this what is Watergate? Now Watergate, this building in Washington DC, America, and this building, this whole complex is called Watergate complex. It has hotels and whatnot. It also housed the office of the Democratic Party. So America, there are two parties called Republican and Democrat. So Republican Party was in power. So Democrat Party was the opposition party. So they had an office of the Democratic Party here. So in 1973 there was a burglary here, and some people came into the party office, and so you are entering into without any. Of course they were caught. They were caught and taken to court of law. So when they were brought before court of law, so the judge noted, and everyone, all of them look very decent people. They don't look like any burglars. शक्ल से सारे के सारे शरीफ दिखाई देने का, कोई शक्ल से चोर लग रहा है, तो तुम लोग क्या चोरी करने यहाँ पर आया रात को? तो जब उनको बुलाया तो इनमें से इन्होंने एडमिट किया कि हम लोग गवर्नमेंट के रिटायर्ड आदमी हैं। तो फिर उनको प्रेस किया गया, तो उन्होंने एडमिट किया कि उसमें से 3 आदमी CIA में नौकरी करते थे पहले। तो रिटायर्ड आदमी CIA के 3 आदमी डेमोक्रेटिक पार्टी के ऑफिस में क्या चोरी करने गए? क्या चोरी करोगे आप वहां जाकर के? तब पता चला कि ये लोग वहां पे वो जासूसी करने के लिए आजकल तो भगवान की वजह से टेक्नोलॉजी बहुत एडवांस हो गई है हमारी। ये आपके व्हाट्सएप सब पढ़ लेते हैं बैठ के दिल्ली वाले, और जैसे कुछ नहीं क्या निकला है। उस जमाने में बड़ा ओल्ड फैशन था, तो आपके वो फोन टैप रिकॉर्ड करने यहाँ लगाए, डिब्बी लगाए, जिसको वायर टैपिंग बगिंग कहते हैं। तो ये इन्होंने वायर टैपिंग बगिंग करने के लिए ना ये लगाने गए थे और ये पकड़े गए, और जब पकड़े गए तो वहां बवाल मच गया पूरे अमेरिका में कि साहब ये कैसे जासूसी हुई है। फिर खबर निकल के आई कि अमेरिका का राष्ट्रपति जो था उसको उसकी नॉलेज में ही हो रहा था, और जब ये बात निकली तो पूरे अमेरिका की पूरी हिस्ट्री गवाह है कि किसी राष्ट्रपति को उन्होंने उसको रिजाइन नहीं करना पड़ा। वो बिल क्लिंटन ऐसी घटिया हरकत कर रहा है, बोल सकता नहीं, हाँ लेडीज बैठी है, वो करने की बात बच गया बिल क्लिंटन, ठीक है। लेकिन निक्सन बेचारे को जूता मार के निकाला उन्होंने। उसका पाप ये था कि लोगों ने कहा कि तेरी हिम्मत कैसे हुई अपने देश के लोगों पे जासूसी करने की तरीके से। That is what Watergate scandal is all about. और मैं उधर यूएस में लेक्चर देने गया था वहां पे अपने इंडियन कम्युनिटी को, तो उनको मैंने बोला यार तुम लोग जितने कच्चे आदमी हो, तुमने हमारे पास क्यों नहीं भेजा ट्रेनिंग के लिए लोगों को? ये 4 गुर्गे वहां गए थे, डिग्री लगाने के उनको दिल्ली भेज रहे एडवांस ट्रेनिंग के लिए। हम सिखाते हैं, हम तो इस्तेमाल है स्कीम के, अंग्रेजों को सिखाए हुए हमारे बड़ी जगह से हमारी जासूसी होती है। एग्जाम्पल दे सकता हूँ आपको मैं, राष्ट्रपतियों को टैग किया हम लोगों ने फॉरन के, प्रधानमंत्रियों को। हम तो एक्सपर्ट है चीजों के, हम पकड़े नहीं जाते। वहां पकड़े जाते आपके क्या 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 ट्रेनिंग आपको देता सीआईए वाले, एक डिग्री तुमसे नहीं लगाई। अब एग्जाम्पल है मेरे पास में डिग्री, हम बहुत एक्सपर्ट डिग्री लगाने का, हमारे जो हिसाब से कुछ भी नहीं है, बच्चों का खेल है, तो क्या टैपिंग करने में क्या बड़ी बात है। तो ये जो इशू था ये मीडिया को छल गया। और 2000 ये बात है 15 की, 15 से पहले मुझे अपने घर वाले पागल समझते थे मेरे को, क्या पागल की तरह सुभाष जी पीछे लगा हुआ है। लेकिन जिस दिन ये खबर मार्केट में आनी, क्योंकि मीडिया को समझ में आ गया, एवरीबॉडी नोज व्हाट इज वाटर गेट, एवरीबॉडी नोज व्हाट इट इज। तो उसके बाद जो बवाल मचा है आपके मीन से, दैट इज हाउ यू ऑल ऑफ अस केम टू नो अबाउट इट, क्योंकि इट वाज ऑल ओवर मीडिया एवरीवेयर। आई एम शोइंग यू द हिंदी आस्पेक्ट बट आई थिंक एवरीवेयर। एंड सडनली उसके बाद से हमारे को लोगों ने ये लेक्चर बनाना शुरू कर दिया, और ये इट वॉज ऑल ओवर मीडिया, एवरी मेन स्ट्रीम। अब यहाँ पे दो चीज, ये मैं आपको सुना के ऑडियो खराब है, बट ये जो जेम्स बॉन्ड की जो थीम है ना, वो इंडिया से इंस्पायर्ड है। इसका वीडियो था,
ये चलेगा नहीं, अच्छा ऑडियो नहीं हो तो अच्छा नहीं
हाँ चलेगा, इसको छोड़ रहा हूँ वीडियो तो आपको।
एक चीज यहाँ पे बोलना बहुत जरूरी है, दिस इज समथिंग दैट यू नीड टू कीप इन माइंड, बिकॉज वी इंडियंस आर बेसिकली डायनेस्टिक बाय आवर मेकअप, मेंटल मेकअप। We like dynasties. So, कितना भी कुछ बोल दे, we like dynasties.
नीतीश कुमार मैंने very good statement दिया था।
तो अभी तो सरकार बनाने जा रहे हैं, अभी तो स्टेटमेंट क्या देगा वो। तो बट the thing is we like dynasties. We assume कि कोई बड़ा आदमी है, उसका बेटा भी बड़ा आदमी होगा। तो जब भी कुछ नेताजी के ऊपर बाइट चाहिए होता है, कैमरा पकड़ के टीवी रिपोर्टर्स भागते हैं, नेताजी फैमिली में कोई मिल जाए, कुछ टिप्पणी दीजिए। So what happens is when we broke this story initially, and we took the story, obviously we took to the family because the family members were still in good terms with us. The media understood in no time that this is a huge story. The family was not convinced. They said, "अरे ऐसे तो होते ही रहता है, the government will spy on its citizens. What is the big deal? It happens throughout the world and all." They wanted to suppress it. They came around when the media broke the story and it became a big deal, and it was in prime time in all TV channels and all newspapers, front page story. Then they started acting like they were shocked. Oh my God, what happened? They forgot that just a few weeks ago they had said, "अरे ऐसे तो होता ही रहता है." So this is how things go on behind the scenes, which you don't get to know.
इसमें अब कई बहुत से डायमेंशन है। फॉर एग्जांपल, जब अमेरिकन को लुकिंग फॉर ओसामा बिन लादेन, तो उन्होंने एक बिन लादेन यूनिट बनाया था सीआईए के अंदर। तो उसके बारे में कहा जाता है कि उसमें करीब 40 आदमी थे, 40 लोगों की टीम थी करके। तो जब ये स्कैंडल ब्रेक हुआ तो नेताजी की फैमिली को जो फाइल बाहर निकली है उसे काउंट किया कि हमारी फैमिली के पीछे कितने बंदे लगे थे, तो 12-13 निकाल दिए। तो पैसा कहां से लेकर आया इतना सारा? 12 आदमी आपने डेडिकेटेड लगा रखे नेताजी की फैमिली के पीछे वसूली करते हैं। So they had so much of money. I mean, that Deva Pandit ji, he was chasing people like anything. Now, please understand this again is not a full story. जासूसी नेताजी के परिवार के नहीं हो रही थी और सिर्फ कलकत्ता में नहीं हो रही थी। बाद में खबर निकल के और डाटा निकल के आ रहा है, जासूसी अक्रॉस कंट्री हो रही थी, और ये हर एक उस ऐसे आदमी की हो रही थी जिसका समाज से कोई भी लिंक ना। आईएनए वाले लपेटे में लिए, उन्होंने पत्रकार लपेटे में लिए, इतिहासकारों को पकड़ लिया, फैमिली के और लोगों को पकड़ लिया, बच्चों को पकड़ लिया। ये दिखा, जैसे ये मुंबई का था कि नॉट जस्ट बोस एंड बॉम्बे टू, कि बॉम्बे के अंदर भी, मुंबई में भी जासूसी चल रही थी उस जमाने में। अब जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल, ये एग्जाम्पल आपको दिखाता हूँ, कोई अगर आप में से कोई आपका रिश्तेदार अमेरिका में उससे पूछें कि तुम अपना बड़ा होशियार समझते हो, वाटरगेट, ये देखो हमारी एक्सपर्टीज कितनी हाई लेवल की थी। ये प्रिटोरिया स्ट्रीट कैलकाटा 1949, मतलब आफ्टर इंडिपेंडेंस के बाद 4 साल हो गए हैं, गांधी जी के रास्ते पे देश चल रहा है, अहिंसा का दंगा बढ़ रहा है दुनिया में, और ये एक आदमी की उन्होंने जासूसी करी है। द सीक्रेसी ऑफ दिस इंटरसेप्शन में काइंडली मेंटेन। तो पृथ्वीराज सब्भा नाम का कोई डायरेक्टर है जिसको उन्होंने इनको इंटरसेप्ट किया, उसके करस्पॉन्डेंस को, उस पर जासूसी करी है। तो ये सब्भा का कसूर क्या था? सब्भा का कसूर ये था कि उसने सुभाष बोस के बड़े भाई को चिट्ठी लिखी और उसको पूछा कि नेताजी अलाइव, इज ही अलाइव टुडे? तो इन्होंने उसका पकड़ में ले लिया। और सबसे कमाल की बात यह है कि सब्भा जो था वो 8वीं का बच्चा था, ही वॉज क्लास 8 चाइल्ड। He is a student of class 9 of the government school. They are Darjeeling, and it is learned from the headmaster of the government school. The attendance of the boy in the school is irregular. Imagine, Ivy people coming to the school and asking teachers about doing inquiry. आज के जमाने में अगर कच्चा खा रहे हैं लोग मीडिया वाले को, देयर इज नथिंग अगेंस्ट हिम पॉलिटिकली और अदरवाइज। 9वीं के बच्चे के बारे में लिखा जा रहा ऑन रिकॉर्ड में, ये इतने गिरे हुए लोग थे कि राइटिंग में अगर ये लिख रहे हैं तो इमेजिन करो उनकी हरकतें क्या रही होंगी लोग की। अंग्रेजों के पिट्ठू नंबर 1, ये सारे अंग्रेजी पिट्ठू थे, सब अंग्रेजों के जमाने के अंग्रेजों के लाइब्रेरी नंबर 1। ये नीचे लिख रहा है, कॉपी फॉरवर्डेड फॉर इन्फॉर्मेशन टू श्री पीके बासु, डिप्टी कमिश्नर पुलिस स्पेशल ब्रांच को बैठ करके रिपोर्टें दे रहे बच्चों के बारे में। तो shame is not even word, and the shame is a word that the government of the day did not even react to it. अभी की बात करो, चुपचाप बैठे रहे, ये चुप हो गए, नहीं तो लपेटे मांगे तो बहुत लोग।
Even a section of Netaji's family came to the defense of Pandit Nehru. They said we don't believe that Pandit Nehru did it. Somebody naughty in the government must have done it. तो कोई होगा, कोई villain होगा government के अंदर जो किया होगा ये. And another argument was put forth that and this was given by JNU level historians, the top level historians, people sitting at the top, and they are academically the supremates. They set the historical narrative in the country, write textbooks. They said that ऐसे शुरू हो गया होगा, then nobody must have noticed it went on, because this went on from 1946 to the 70s. So nearly 30 years, it just went on and it was happening. This is a qualified historian talking who is in charge of the best institutions. And we are talking of 2014, just before the elections. So, and prime time debate on TV, not in a room, not behind any screen. They are saying this on air in front of everybody. What we proved to them that ये जो जासूसी कर रहा था, जासूसी हो रहा था, this depended on a permission from the government. And that permission had to be renewed every year. It just can't happen on autopilot. It just cannot go on.
किसी लोग आईबी के अफसर की हिम्मत नहीं है कि सुभाष को उसकी फैमिली
And the number of people deployed in Bengal, in Tamil Nadu, जहाँ पे भी family members and associates जा रहे हैं नेताजी के, लोग पीछे वहीं पे जा रहे हैं. The spies are following them. They are filing reports to the West Bengal government. They are filing reports to the Central Intelligence Bureau. So a huge network is involved. It doesn't happen unless a government is actively pursuing this and is renewing that permit every year.
अब take for example this is a declassified intelligence intercept. Now ये 1955 का 1955 का सुभाष बोस को according to government of India मरे हुए 10 साल हो चुके हैं. तो ये नेताजी का वाइफ एमबीए शंकर चिट्ठी लिख रही है अपने भतीजे को कोलकाता में, तो ये उनके लेटर पढ़ रहे थे, खोल के पढ़ के फाइलों में लगा रहे थे. Now, to understand how much gross this is, think about it. Imagine, for the sake of argument, that Kasturba Gandhi did not die in 1942. Imagine, for the sake of argument, Kasturba Gandhi was alive in 1955. Imagine there's a story tomorrow in some media कि कस्तूरबा गांधी के सब गुजरात इंटेलिजेंस ब्रांच उनकी जासूसी कर रहा था, उनके लेटर्स पढ़ रहा था. मैं आपको लिख के दे रहा हूँ कि बीजेपी वाले चक्का जाम कर देंगे पार्लियामेंट हाउस में कल सुबह. और ये देख रहे हैं बीजेपी के लोगों ने मुंह तक नहीं खोला इसमें, दो चार को छोड़ करके. इतना गांधी भक्ति का पर्दा पड़ गया आपको मैंने. अब इसमें इंटरेस्टिंग कहानी ये आ रही है, इसके अंदर ये डॉक्यूमेंट सन 55 के हैं इंटरसेप्शन. आप मुझे बताइए, अगर बेसिकली किसी को अंग्रेजी आती होगी, 55 के अंदर अब एमएलए शंकर नेताजी की वाइफ की विडो थी. Would you call सोनिया गांधी जी as राजीव गांधी जी विडो, और अनफॉर्चुनेटली शी राजीव गांधी जी विडो. बेसिक अंग्रेजी है. तो ये इंटेलिजेंस वाले को क्या लिखे हैं इसके डॉक्यूमेंट के ऊपर, उनका नोटिंग क्या है. The addressee is evidently the alleged wife of Shri Subhas Chandra Bose. इनको पता था कि जो मर्जी बोलते रहो ऊपर से, वो तो वाइफ है. So everybody across lines, and I'm talking about mainstream media. I'm not talking about. I'm not getting into some party mouthpiece. It is fairly common. What was happening essentially, that the government somewhere was aware that Netaji was alive, and they were hunting for him everywhere, collecting information about him. So I know that this gentleman I want to reach him, but he's not available. So I'll put an eye on your relatives, your friends, everybody, so that in case you connect with them, I'll come to know. So this is how the net was functioning. This was the conclusion drawn by India Today. Everybody, all the mainstream newspaper and media. IB did not. This is Times of India. Story broken by the Hyderabad RE. IB did not believe Netaji died in 1945. snooped on the family members to get information on his whereabouts. IV spied on Bose came thinking he would try to contact him. And one other king admitted on record that his father died in 1984, Netaji's younger brother. He said, my father's phone was tapped. तो 84 तक पनी चल रही है सुभाष को क्यों लेकर के किस बात पे? तो ये इनका ये कहानी और एक और चीज जो निकली which makes the whole Mamata Banerjee when she declassified her files she put her seal of approval on this thing. The information is very clear. You know this gentleman who's standing there next to her, Mr. Prakash, he was with Raw earlier. Then he was the commissioner of police when this thing happened. Then he became, I think he was the chief advisor to he became the DGP of the Bengal police. Right now he is something like a local NSA to Mamata Banerjee government. And he's a former raw person. बेवकूफ थोड़ी ना, सबको पता है इसका मतलब क्या, कॉपर एंड शर्ट केस है. MJ Akbar on behalf of BJP he also made the same statement. Now this is something which I want to leave. ये आत्मा जयाराम जी हैं, आपके हैदराबाद इसी इलाके के ही हैं, हैदराबाद बेंगलोर साइड के थे. He was the IP director in 1972-73. Now Atma Jayaram had a sort of appeared before the Costa Commission in 1972. Today we know, looking at the records, there was snooping happening. Okay, then it was not known. So I am giving an example of how these people fool, how smart they are. So Atma Jayaram was the director. He was the IB director in 1972. He appeared before Costa Commission. जो इसकी एग्जामिनेशन का रिकॉर्ड हमने निकाला है, उसको एक सिंपल सवाल पूछा गया कि इज द आईबी डीलिंग विद सुभाष बोस और नॉट. द आंसर शुड बी नो. सुभाष चंद्र बोस died in 1945. Why would IB be concerned with Subhash Bose? Look at the answer he is giving. He said, what are you now? I am the director of IB since 1971. Has the department been dealing with the subject of Subhash Chandra Bose? The answer given is, as director of intelligence branch, I can only say that the intelligence department has a wide responsibility, and whatever the government wishes to know, we will do it. But it is difficult for me to say what we do and what we do not. That means yes. He didn't want to say yes, so he took up this thing. And if anyone of you is a fan of Humphrey Appleby, yes, Mister, he is the uncle of Humphrey Appleby. Now, there's another thing, this will unfortunately not by this time, this period. At the start of our inquiry, this was whatever. Nobody could have imagined this Gumnami Wapa Churi will have any hold. Of course, I rejected it when we heard about it. I abused somebody who first told me about this case. So don't think we were, from the day when we were thinking in Netaji sitting in Hyderabad. I'm sorry, no, we did not believe at all. Who would believe in this thing? The first time I heard about him was when I read his article on HindustanTimes.com, and I was in Delhi at that time, and I abused him, obviously. I mean, मरने भी नहीं देंगे, छोड़ेंगे नहीं केस को, कुछ ना कुछ हर 2 साल में एक नया बाबा लेके आ जाते हैं. So that was my first response. So it is not that we are believers and we had a preconceived idea. We had to go through each and every step, verifying the evidence, verify each and every claim, then only we reach our conclusion. Now, जब ये 2014-15 में ये जब स्नूपिंग का स्कैंडल ग्रो हुआ, उसमें एक और कहानी घटना करी. उस कहानी का बैकग्राउंड ये था, वो भी हमने कराया था. उसका बैकग्राउंड ये है कि आप में से कुछ लोगों को पता, मैं तो दिल्ली में आई वाज बॉर्न वेरी क्लोज टू द न्यू दिल्ली एरिया, बाबू फ्लैटों में मैं ग्रो हुआ. तो इट वाज वेरी कॉमन इन द गवर्नमेंट सर्कल फॉर पीपल टू टॉक कि 1947 में जो आपको मिला था ट्रांसफर ऑफ पावर था, जिसको इंडिपेंडेंस डे कहा जाता है. इट इज ट्रांसफर ऑफ पावर. उसको वो इंडिपेंडेंस डे तो ये और वर्ड यूज करते हैं वो है, बट बेसिकली ट्रांसफर ऑफ पावर हुआ. नंबर 1. नंबर 2, ये एलिगेशन लगे थे, और सम ऑफ यू माइट रिकॉल कि देयर वर सम हिडन क्लॉजेस टू दिस ट्रांसफर ऑफ पावर, एंड पीपल मेड ऑल काइंड ऑफ एलिगेशन. दिस इज फ्रॉम हिंदुस्तान टाइम्स कि देयर वाज एन जेंटलमैन एग्रीमेंट, एज वी कॉल इट इन इंग्लिश. There was an agreement reached by the Indian leadership that if Subhash Chandra Bose, an enemy of the British Empire, if he comes to India, we will hand him over to you, or he would be tried as a war criminal. So this allegation, this conspiracy theory was floating around everywhere. So no, government never responded to it. So government has, even today they will not talk. If they don't write anything, they will not even respond to you. So they will not serve. No, it so happened. Unfortunately, I have a very bad news to give to you. When these files were being made public in 2014-15, the snooping cell brought out. At the same time, I discovered in UK a file came out in the British archives, and it is now proven. And this is coming from the MI5. This is the MI5. The MI5 is the British intelligence, British army. So they have confirmed that in the transfer of power there were secret clauses. So now this is no longer a secret. Yes, in the transfer of power there were secret clauses. MI5 has made its secret clause public now. So thus, according to that secret clause, after India became free, the British intelligence opened an office in Delhi. And our IB bosses used to go there.
We have to conclude.
Our IB bosses used to go there, salute their former sahibs, and used to give them all the information. And what came out in the media was, of course, through this information that we brought out, that they were not only were they spying on Netaji in India, they were sharing that intelligence with their sahibs in London. You will not find a better example of loyalty, how loyal you can be to your former masters. Even after independence, they were spying and sending information to the people there. And the most loyal were the Indian army officers. Never were loyal to the British all their lives, even after independence. So this is not a joke. When you bring out Subhas Chandra Bose thing, it will have ramification in many, many ways. So this is one example. And the theory of, I'll leave the last word here, this story about there being a secret clause in the transfer of power or whatever was first stated by a man today you call Gumnami Baba. In 60s, we got a record from the government file out based on that. So Gumnami Baba was probably the first person who began talking about secret clause in the transfer of power, which leads us to the third and the last, the theory. And now we are running out of time, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the remaining story, if we have to tell you, it will take us easily 1.5 hours, but we have 5 minutes. So that's how much we have to compress the story. So I will tell you very, very briefly. I'll give you the story, main headlines. Obviously, it is a tremendously complex story and equally interesting, but unfortunately we don't have the time. तो जितना हो सकता है मैं आपको मोटा-मोटा बता देता हूँ।
ये चंद्रचूर ये I can't resist temptation. ये सुना दूँ काफी इनके फैन बैठे हैं तो।
प्रधानमंत्री राज्य को संबोधित करने के बाद जय हिंद का उच्चारण करेंगे। करोड़ों करोड़ों से मंत्रिमंडल नारायण पूजेगा। नेताजी को हम अपने आस पास नहीं कहीं पाएंगे। नेताजी हमसे दूर नहीं जा सकते। नेताजी हमारे हृदयों में बैठे।
That's Mamata Banerjee. That's Mamata sitting there.
अश्वत्थामा की तरह नेताजी चिरजीवी है. That's what Atalji said. Atalji, anyone if you know Atalji, Atalji was a great poet. In terms of giving lectures, Modi ji is probably the best, but Atalji was, if you understand Hindi language, he was very depth. He was a poet of the highest order. So whatever he used to say 2 words and it would carry a lot of meaning. So he said Netaji is alive in our hearts like Ashwatthama, he is there. Now what is Ashwatthama? Ashwatthama's crime was in Mahabharata, he used that weapon, which was not allowed. And he was cursed that he will never die, he will remain alive. So this is what Atalji has said.
I mean, his curse was that he would never come back, he would never be allowed to come back into the society. So, I mean, if you go back and think about Ashwatthama and think about this comparison, the metaphor, you will understand a lot of things. Bina bole, aap bahut kuch samajh jayenge. So anyway, come back to the story of Gumnami Baba. The so-called Gumnami Baba, नाम उनका Gumnami Baba नहीं था, कुछ नाम मिला नहीं था, इसलिए उनका नाम लोकल हिंदी मीडिया जो था रख दिया था. Gumnami Sant, Anam Sant करते करते Gumnami Baba was the phrase which stuck to his name, and that became the convenient thing, and that because that became a very source of annoyance to the people of very high taste, refined taste, and snobs of Bengal. They are Gumnami Baba क्या होता है? ऐसा थोड़ी ना सुभाष चंद्र बोस Gumnami Baba हो सकते हैं. So whatever it is, the story broke in September 1985 after his death. There was a huge hue and cry, but it subsided because it was taken over in '86 by the verdict on the Ram Janmabhoomi Babri Masjid order of the Faizabad District Court in February 1986. And at that time
He was cremated this place. If you go to Ayodhya Nagari, this is Guptar Ghat.
Anuj, we won't have time if we want to get into the details.
और यहाँ भगवान राम ने जल समाधि दिया था.
So, abhi we have already overshot the time period. So, a case was filed by Netaji's niece, Suresh Chandra Bose's daughter, Lalita Bose, in the Allahabad High Court. And as a result, the High Court ordered that all his belongings must be preserved and a comprehensive list must be made. Something which they gave the name inventory. So this inventory of items of belongings was made, and it took the court appointed officials nearly 1.5 years to make this list. And it's a pretty detailed list. Nearly 2,800 items are listed, but when we looked at it and desegregated, because there are put a lot of things, a bunch of letters, bunch of newspapers, and bunches and here and there, we realized that there are nearly 8,000 items. So those were recovered and listed out. Now this thing came up again in front of Justice Mukherjee Commission. Mukherjee Commission looked at the eyewitness accounts, it took into account the documentary evidence and everything, letters written by former revolutionaries from Bengal, people who used to go and meet this Baba at least twice a year on 2 occasions during the Durga Puja and on Netaji's birthday. And these were not ordinary people, they were former revolutionaries and were in the network of Subhas Bose's revolutionary network, revolutionary groups. So he took into account those, and then he took into account forensic evidence, which was the handwriting of Subhas Bose was compared with handwriting of so-called Gumnami Baba, and DNA. So a set of 7 teeth were found from Gumnami Baba's residence, which was compared, the DNA extracted from it was compared with the DNA extracted from the blood of Netaji's maternal and paternal side relatives. So and so these were the broad range of evidence considered by Mukherjee Commission. Now, when it considered the eyewitness accounts, when it considered the documentary evidence and overall circumstantial evidence, Justice Mukherjee very clearly wrote that there is no reason for not accepting this evidence as true. But he had to stop because he could not accept it as a final truth because he was stopped by 2 factors. First, there were 2 government labs which said the handwriting did not match, as opposed to 1 independent expert, top-level independent expert, who had said the handwriting was of the same person. So it was a 2-to-1 verdict. So he went with the government side and said the handwriting is not matching according to government lab, so I cannot accept it. And DNA specimens were collected and tested by 2 Sarkari labs again, one in Hyderabad, CDFD, and another in Kolkata, CFSL. CDFD said the results are inconclusive, we haven't been able to extract enough DNA, so we have not been able to get to a final conclusion. CFSL, Kolkata-based CFSL, on the other hand, said that the DNA we have, adequate DNA, we have matched both with Netaji's paternal and maternal side, and that there is no match of the DNA. So they are in effect 2 different persons. So that stopped Justice Mukherjee from reaching a conclusion. DNA doesn't match means the 2 persons are different. But even then, Justice Mukherjee did not write in his report that they are 2 different persons, because the other evidence, all other evidence put together was so strong that he could not still ignore them. And secondly, what he could not write in his report, which he told us, he told me, he told Anuj personally, that he knew that test results were tampered, and to the extent where he was prior informed that the DNA had matched, but when the report arrived to him, the conclusion was changed to inconclusive. So matched to inconclusive within a few days, he had seen that change. So he was pretty sure that there was some fudging of the results, and something had happened, something had gone wrong in the government labs, and that's why, without even accusing the government labs of any wrongdoing, he did not put it down in his report that these 2 are not the same persons. Now, things started moving from 2010. We were left flabbergasted, of course, because all the evidence that we saw indicated very, very strongly, we were confident that they are the same person. It cannot be anything else. then how come the DNA did not match or the handwriting did not match? So we started hunting. In the meantime, in 2013, the case that Lalita Bose had filed in Allahabad High Court in 1986, the final order was delivered. And then the Allahabad High Court asked the Uttar Pradesh government to set up a museum in Ayodhya for displaying the items of the so-called Gumnami Baba. In which country does that happen? I mean, in our country especially, we have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of sannyasis, sadhu babas roaming all around the country. Thousands of them dying every year. Which government goes and picks up the items, belongings of such a sadhu or such a baba and such a sannyasi, and in which instance does a high court, a state high court, order the government to set up a museum for that? That's enough said. But the court also asked the Uttar Pradesh government to set up a commission of inquiry to find out who the man was, who this Gumnami Baba was. So, I mean, those things were happening, and the Uttar Pradesh government moved promptly in setting up the museum, and the museum was ready by 2017. The funny part is that it has been ready since 2017, but till date it has not been inaugurated. What does it need to be done? All that needs to be done is the Chief Minister has to go there and cut the ribbon. And he has not been able to find those 5 minutes in the last 7 years.
He goes to the first ground floor and comes back from there.
So this is what the state. I mean, it tells you, everything tells you. Now we were really bothered about the DNA thing. What happens? How can it happen? It's a perfect science. DNA matches or it doesn't match. There cannot be no gray zone. So we started hunting. The first thing that struck our attention was that when the DNA samples were being tested, the first test was done by CDFD Hyderabad, where they found it is inconclusive. The reports, the samples came back, the report also came back sealed, confidential, nobody had seen the report and nobody knew. Only Justice Mukherjee knew the broad finding. It was not shown to public, it was not made public.
Justice Mukherjee also did not know.
No, he had to send the second thing. That's why he had to send the second.
Both the reports were open at the same time.
Achha, for public. Yeah, whatever. Okay, fine. But then CFSL took the second sample, the remaining 5 teeth. The CDFD had used only 2 teeth out of 7. God knows why they did not use any more teeth, although they had access to them. So they sent back 5, 5 were sent to CFSL. CFSL extracted enough amount of this thing and found that they had. Now what happened is, when the report came back from CDFD and the CFSL had not even started the DNA tests, the leading Bengali newspaper in Kolkata, Anand Bazar Patrika, published the news that the DNA has not matched. Okay, so they knew prior, before anybody else, even before the DNA test had started.
In a foreign country like in Europe and America, the technology is such that you do testing today, the result will come out tomorrow. We have such high technology in Calcutta in 2003 that doing tests today, 6 months before that you know the outcome, and it is published in the Congress Party Notice.
So, I mean, very clearly, either you have divine powers or you have access to time machine, or you know the most acceptable rational explanation, which is that you are party to foul play. That is the most acceptable this thing. So we took that CDFD. Now we asked then CFSL that please give us the underlying data. The data that is printed on a piece of paper, a sheet, is called electropherogram. We had no idea about the electropherogram. Now we have helpers, we have well-wishers, every corner actually. And I had a friend. I will not disclose the gender. So that friend, when we were scratching our head as to what to do, that friend told me that do one thing, ask for the electropherogram. And if the electropherogram exists and they give you, you will be able to verify it through another expert. It's like a blood test raw report, it is like an MRI report, it's like an X-ray plate or an ECG report. You don't like the opinion of the first doctor, you take it to another doctor for a second opinion. As simple as that. Now CFSL told us that we don't give electropherogram. We will not give you, and it is our policy that we don't give electropherogram with our reports. Whereas that is the accepted standard ISO protocol across the world, that no DNA analysis report is acceptable to anybody without accompanying electropherogram. But CFSL is the only exception in the world, or so they claim. Now we fought with this for a long time. Then second time, another friend of ours asked. Then the electroprogram, but they also said the same thing that we will not give. Third time it was asked. They said we can't find the electroprogram anymore. And then there was a huge hue and cry in the national media, prime time television, and then they said, oh no, we have found it, but we will still not give it to you. So they have still.
Afterwards there was another application, and then they say it's a national security thing.
The last time
national security.
They said it's a national security issue. So just try to imagine one unknown sadhu has died somewhere. It's a national security issue according to the government. How nobody knows, and the government will not tell. Now, what happened? Funny thing is, it's not funny actually. It is very, very serious. CDFD, on the other hand, had submitted their electropherogram copy with their report to the commission, Mukherjee Commission. Now, because I got all the exhibits from Mukherjee Commission, I also got access to this electropherogram report. So our friends here, Anuj got in touch with one of the topmost experts in DNA analysis, in DNA studies in our country, Ganeshal Chaube, and he gave us proper opinion. Our friends abroad, they also approached experts.
From Australia, another expert has given the similar finding.
So they said,
another expert in Canada who was earlier in the California, very famous lab, he has given the similar finding.
So this is very, very scary actually. What they said that the CDFD report was actually inconclusive, and there is reason for it because there was not adequate DNA sample. But when DNA is matched, when the printouts come, the comparisons are done on a few points which are called locus or in plural loci. Usually they do it on 9 loci. Here CDFD got data on 4 or 5 loci, not more than that. So they said it's inconclusive. We have not got data on 9.
Sir,
now the thing is, for whatever data they got, CDFD, it was a complete 100% match. And this is not our opinion because we don't know how to read an electropherogram. This is experts in the country, experts abroad. That's what they're telling us. And we have caught the fraud in CFSL's report. So it's a black and white yes or no thing. It's either a match or a mismatch. So when the lab says it's a mismatch and we prove that it is a fraud, then it has to be a negative of negative, which means it's a positive. That means it has a match. And in CDFD, we see that whatever data was available, whatever we got, it was a complete match. Even that limited state of data. So this is something which is unassailable. And handwriting, we got tested through foreign experts, through the topmost experts in India. We got them re-examined without telling them any background data, what this is all about. And both the independent experts.
There are multiple things, but just one image. This is Netaji sample, this is Kumari sample. One of the 1,000 things that they have captured, this special caret mark. Subhas Bose, Baba does the same thing. So this is one way they identified who the writer.
So this cannot be copied, this cannot be forged. This cannot be forged. And there are 100 other things. So both the independent experts in the country and outside the country, they said the same thing. Now, if you we don't have the time to take you through this thing. I'll come back to that comparison tables.
No, ask people to read these books because the comparison का time नहीं है 2 मिनट खत्म हो गया.
Just to conclude that.
Time's up for them. They want 2 minutes. We have already short.
So this is, if you look at the government story, government position, it is only the plane crash has only circumstantial evidence which has been said by the American State Department, which we showed, and also the Prime Minister Pandit Nehru. They said the same thing. Only circumstantial evidence, no direct evidence. कुछ और नहीं है. In this case, we have direct evidence. We have forensic evidence. We have eyewitness account. We have documentary evidence. Any sort of evidence you can ask for, it is just there. Which one do you think stands the examination for the truth? Which one do you think is the truth? Can there be any doubt any further? People will try to they will try to confuse you. They will give you different data points and say hypothetical things and rhetorical stuff, and they will try to confuse. But this is the hard fact. This is where the truth lies. And there is, today at least, there is absolutely no doubt.
The problem with this case is very complex and multi-layered and difficult to understand. So this is not Shah Rukh Khan film ki you watch in half an hour to understand. So one has to spend about 3 hours to understand the entire thing. The problem that nobody has 3 hours. So that's a problem. We are not able to create a big movement out of it because 3 hours, who will give us 3 hours? Nobody, because people want half an hour lecture. So not everything. Lectures are good. That format is very nice. That has all important. But problem with this case, a half an hour lecture will tell you nothing of the sort. And unless you go through all of them, and ये अभी जो presentation आपको दिया है, ये 5वीं क्लास का presentation है. हम दोनों इस केस के PhD हैं. अभी तो बताया कि आपको बच्चों वाली तो छोटी-छोटी चीजें बता रहे हैं. तो बिल्कुल बेसिक जो सबको बताते थे. It's a very highly complex, multi-layered. And don't ask me simple question कि why did not come out. It's a very complex matter.
Actually, we need at least 2 more hours to take you through the entire book.
वो possible नहीं.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.